Hello, hello. Welcome back to Align Vitality. Today, we are talking about one of the most foundational, most overlooked, and most beautifully simple wellness tools available to you, and it's completely free. And that is natural sunlight. If you are like me, oh boy, and you feel like your mood has really dipped during these winter months, I tell you, I've been struggling lately. But here's the thing, it's not individual or personal weakness, it's actually biology. Your body was designed to respond to light. And when that light decreases, it can really affect your mood, your energy, your sleep, and even your hormones. Now, it all sounds almost too simple, but sunlight is one of the most powerful regulators of your hormones, your sleep, your mood, your stress resilience, your metabolism, and even your gut health. So today's episode is all about understanding why your body depends on natural light and why midlife women especially feel the consequences when they don't get enough. We're going to unpack why sunlight is a biological requirement, how morning, midday, and evening sunlight affect different systems in the body, how sunlight supports cortisol, melatonin, serotonin, and metabolism, why circadian rhythms get disrupted in midlife, and simple practical ways to build sunlight into your day. So let's get into it and let's step into the light, shall we? Do you want to recharge your energy, restore your mental clarity, and finally feel like yourself again? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to Align Vitality, the podcast that offers faith and functional health strategies for high-achieving, health-conscious women in midlife who want to heal from chronic stress, body and spirit. I'm your host, Tanya, a certified functional health practitioner, Christian life coach, and fellow midlife woman who knows what it's like to look strong on the outside while struggling silently on the inside. Here, we get real about anxiety, brain fog, burnout, hormone shifts, and the hidden toll of chronic stress. And more importantly, we talk about the path to healing. Each week, you'll find practical strategies and faith-fueled encouragement to help you restore your God-given energy, calm your nervous system, and reclaim peace in this season of life. If you're ready to stop pushing through and start thriving in the abundant life you were created for, let's get after it. This is Align Vitality. Now, one of the most fascinating things about human physiology is that your body runs on rhythms, not random habits or guesswork, but rhythms. In Genesis, God creates light before plants, animals, or people. Light was the first external signal the world was given. And our bodies reflect that divine design. You actually have a master clock in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN, that regulates your sleep and wake cycles, your cortisol rhythm, your hunger and your fullness hormones, your body temperature, your metabolic timing, your immune rhythm, and even your gut motility. But here's the most important thing. Your master clock is set by light. Not by your alarm clock, not by caffeine, not by your to-do list, but by light hitting your eyes. And indoor lighting is too weak and it's the wrong wavelength to provide the signals that your brain needs to work properly. So this is often why so many of us in midlife feel off. We're living in dim light all day or artificial light and bright light at night. The exact opposite of what our physiology requires. So let's break down what different times of light do for your body. First, we have morning sunlight, truly the most important light of the day. And if you only change one thing after this episode, please let it be this. Try to get natural morning light into your eyes within 30 to 60 minutes of waking. Even 5 to 10 minutes can shift your entire day. And here's what morning sunlight does. And all of this is backed by strong circadian rhythm research. First of all, morning light sets your cortisol rhythm. Morning sunlight tells your brain, hey, it's daytime, let's wake up. Cortisol rises naturally in the morning, and that's a healthy surge. It gives you energy, it helps you feel mentally alert, and it anchors your stress response for the rest of the day. But without morning light, cortisol becomes irregular. And that might be when we start to feel groggy in the morning, wired in the evening, anxious for no reason, waking at 2 to 4 a.m., or exhausted by midday. Morning light helps regulate melatonin. Most people think of melatonin as just a sleep hormone, but it's actually more accurate to think of it as your body's timing signal for rest. Some of our melatonin, and that which we attribute to sleep, is produced in the brain in a tiny gland called the pineal gland, and it's made from serotonin as a building block. So already we see a connection to mood, nutrition, and overall health. Melatonin is produced and released in response to darkness. Not in the morning, not randomly, and not because you're tired. It is your body responding to a signal that says it's time to wind down. So typically, melatonin starts to rise in the evening, peaks in the middle of the night, and then begins to fall in the early morning hours. Now here's where it gets interesting and practical. Morning light suppresses melatonin. It tells your brain, we're awake now, shut that down. And that's a good thing, because at the same time, it's also doing something incredibly important. It's setting your internal clock, your circadian rhythm, so that melatonin will rise at the right time later that night. So again, what does morning light do? It suppresses melatonin at the right time in the morning. It signals your SCN to delay melatonin until evening, and it strengthens the cycle so that melatonin rises properly at night. So this is one reason why it's something as simple as getting outside in the morning before checking email, before all of the daily chaos, can be one of the most powerful things you can do for your sleep, for your energy, and even for your hormones. Now, just a quick aside about melatonin. There is melatonin in your gut, too. Today, while we are focusing on the importance of sunlight, we want to remember other important roles of melatonin in functional health. Your body doesn't just make melatonin in your brain, it actually produces a significant amount in your gut. But here's the difference. Pineal melatonin, or the melatonin produced in the brain, is controlled by light and darkness. It is released into the bloodstream, and it regulates your sleep-wake cycle. Gut melatonin acts more locally in the digestive system, and it helps regulate things like your gut motility, inflammation, protection of the gut lining. So while your brain's melatonin is all about timing your sleep, your gut's melatonin is more about protecting and regulating your digestive environment. It's also a very, very powerful antioxidant. So this complex picture of melatonin reinforces something we talk about all the time. Your body is deeply interconnected. Your gut health affects your neurotransmitters. Your neurotransmitters affect your sleep. Your sleep affects your hormones, and around it goes. Now, getting back to morning sunlight. Morning light also boosts serotonin. Serotonin affects mood, motivation, emotional stability, and mental focus. Morning sunlight elevates serotonin, which becomes the building block for nighttime melatonin. This is why morning light reduces anxiety and improves emotional resilience. Morning light also regulates your hunger hormones. Early sunlight exposure improves ghrelin levels, which is your hunger signal. It improves leptin levels, which is your satiety hormone, and it improves insulin sensitivity. Research shows that people who get consistent morning light have healthier metabolic profiles, even when their diets vary widely. So, a practical takeaway is try to get 10 minutes outside on a clear day every morning. Ideally, 20 to 30 minutes if it's cloudy. And standing at the window, while it helps to kind of have natural light coming in, it doesn't really count in terms of actually getting this natural light into your eyes, because glass blocks some of the essential wavelengths of the natural light. Now let's talk about midday sunlight. This is the metabolic and mitochondrial booster. Midday sunlight sometimes gets a bad reputation because of skin health, but when you consume it wisely, it is incredibly beneficial. This is when the sun is brightest and richest in blue light frequencies, which are essential for daytime energy. Midday light actually stimulates your mitochondria, which are your little energy factories. They respond directly to natural light. Midday light helps mitochondria make ATP or energy more efficiently, reduce inflammation, support healthy metabolism, improve muscle function, and enhance brain clarity. Midlife women and men often experience some level of mitochondrial slowdown, which is why this light window matters so much more. We need everything we can get when it comes to supporting our mitochondrial energy production. Sunlight also supports vitamin D production. Vitamin D is essential and it impacts immune regulation, bone strength, hormone synthesis, muscle function, mood, and insulin sensitivity. Midlife women need vitamin D desperately, especially for bone density and hormone transitions. And sunlight is the most natural source of appropriate vitamin D production and absorption. Midday light also improves glucose metabolism. So sunlight hitting the skin releases nitric oxide, which improves blood flow, supports glucose transport, and can help reduce insulin resistance. Again, all crucial as we think about and experience perimenopausal symptoms. So again, what's a practical takeaway from midday sunlight? Ideally, try to get 5 to 15 minutes between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. It's not about getting a suntan. It is about getting light exposure. So maybe you take your lunch break outside or part of it, or maybe you take a quick walk around the building. Let your skin and your eyes receive that light signal. Now, what about evening sunlight? It's certainly not ideal for sun tanning and all of that. Well, evening sunlight is your nervous system's wind down cue. So evening light, especially the golden hour light, contains higher amounts of red and near infrared light, which are deeply calming and restorative. Evening light actually reduces cortisol. It communicates to your brain and body that the day is ending, you are safe, and it's time to settle down. This particularly helps women who might feel a bit wired at night, or they struggle to fall asleep, or they find themselves waking up between 2 and 4 a.m. Maybe they feel extra anxious in the evenings. These evening light wavelengths tell your brain to shift toward rest mode without prematurely triggering melatonin. It's like a gentle dimmer switch preparing your nervous system. Evening light actually supports cellular repair. So red and infrared wavelengths penetrate deeply into tissue and support mitochondrial recovery, reduced inflammation, joint comfort, muscle repair, and it reduces oxidative stress, which is a key component to essentially the development of chronic illness. This is why infrared saunas mimic some of the benefits of evening sunlight. So again, ideally, aim for getting 10 to 20 minutes of outdoor light just before sunset. Maybe that's walking your dog or sitting on the deck or just kind of opening the blinds. Although again, it's best to actually get out in the light. Watch the beautiful sunset. It really does matter from a functional health standpoint. Now, just as important as light is, darkness is important as well. This is really the other half of circadian health. We often think of sunlight as the main circadian tool, but darkness is just as essential. Melatonin is produced when your body senses darkness, and even small amounts of light can suppress it. So this is why being focused on reducing light input in the evening is so important. Nighttime light reduces melatonin significantly. So whether that's computer or TV screens or overhead lights, maybe bright lamps, they delay melatonin and they reduce deep sleep because your body thinks, oh, it's still daytime, and your cortisol stays elevated. Chronic evening light exposure is linked to insomnia, early morning waking, increased inflammation, higher blood sugar, increased appetite, weight gain, and mood dysregulation. Now, I know you feel me in saying we don't need help in any of those areas as midlife women. So think about dimming your lights after sunset, using lamps instead of overhead lights, reducing screen exposure before bed, and making your bedroom as dark as possible. Your sleep will absolutely improve if you are intentional about your light exposure. Now, this is where it all comes together. As many of you know, midlife brings shifts in our estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, glucose regulation, sleep cycles, mood regulation, thyroid function, inflammation. These shifts make you more sensitive to circadian disruption and more responsive to circadian support. So sunlight can truly help regulate your sleep quality, your cortisol rhythm, your stress resilience, your mood and anxiety, your glucose stability, your metabolism, your digestive health, your immunity, the frequency of hot flashes, and overall inflammation. When we correct our light environment, we almost always will notice more morning energy, better mental focus, calmer evenings, fewer stress peaks, easier weight management, less nighttime waking, and improved emotional stability. So truly, light is medicine. Light was the first thing God spoke into existence, the first rhythm, the first separation, the first foundation for everything else that was created. I really believe that natural light is one of the ways God still invites us back into order, into peace, and into alignment with the way we were designed to function. When we stepped into those rhythms that He created, morning, midday, evening, our bodies can exhale. We feel supported. We feel grounded. We feel more like ourselves again. We feel aligned. So consider some simple ways to bring more sunlight into your busy day. Maybe it's drinking your morning coffee or tea outside on the deck. Maybe it's going for a little walk 5 minutes before starting work. Maybe it's taking a midday walk or a little sunshine break. Maybe it's watching the sunset whenever you can, using soft lighting in the evenings and letting natural light wake your home. Every little bit helps. My friends, I hope that today's episode reminded you that healing doesn't always come from supplements, protocols, or big complicated strategies. Sometimes it begins with a simple step outside with the warmth of the sun on your face and a deep breath in your lungs. Your body was designed to respond to light, and when you give it the right signals, it knows exactly what to do. As always, I'm here if you want support building the foundations of health, regulating your hormones, restoring your energy, and creating rhythms that help you thrive. Your body is capable of healing, and you don't have to do it alone. Until next time, my friends, lead well, live well, and be well. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friend. If today's episode encouraged or blessed you, would you please take a minute to leave a rating and written review on Apple Podcasts? It means the world to me, and it helps more women like you discover this message of hope and healing. If you're ready to take the next step in your functional health journey, join my interest list at alignvitalityhealth.com. And remember, this podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to be medical advice, nor is it intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your health. Until next time, I'm Tanya reminding you that healing is possible and your best season is still ahead.